And we are live. Guys, thank you so much for joining us on the Keeper's Corner. We have Jason from Canadian Reptile Adventures and me. Now, the reason why we were late is Jason was giving me one of his soliloquies in the green room. And let's just get it out there already. If he's not sending me a Dead Sea Scroll of a DM, he's reciting Shakespeare to me. He's my Canadian. Jason has so many AKAs, it's hysterical.
It's getting out of hand. You're not going to believe this, but somebody actually referred to me as KY Jelly at the Crane gig the other day. Now that's for completely different reasoning, but I damn near died and they couldn't figure out why.
Yeah, so let's see. I think we could do a show. Oh, this is episode 24, by the way, guys. So thank you so much.
Definitely. It's been flying crazy.
See, we can go through. Yep, we can go through Jason's 24 AKAs. I mean, we can spend an entire show.
Different nicknames and how we got there.
Yeah, and just talk about that. We have KY Jelly.
Steve, how's it going, Patrick? James,
Canada Duck. Canadian Vanilla Ice.
Quick. Come on. Quick.
What else?
Fall asleep.
I know I'm missing one. Oh, Canadian Shakespeare. Canadian Shakespeare.
Okay, don't say that I didn't show you.
There you go, Lindsay.
Canadian Shakespeare.
Canadian Shakespeare. Okay. So yeah, they've had jokes this week. Let me tell you. I know Angie's been having
it puts a huge smile on my face. I think it's great that we got such a close group of people that watch us and join in on the conversations. It makes the show so much more entertaining than just listening to your fucking bullshit all night.
Did you wait? But did you catch? Have you seen Angie at all this week?
I've seen a couple things, but again, I don't always get the time that I used to. It's pretty sweet, eh? I don't always get the time that I used to spend on the Instagram right now for a variety of reasons, but I try to.
Man, you see, you missed out. See, Angie, I don't even know if I want to tell him right now. You know, the ammunition he could have had and the fun
he could have had. It's on my list of things. I got to see what was going on there.
Okay, so Patrick, you just pretty much self-incriminated yourself because I did not tell him who sent it, but I did send him the message. I think that was last week of the eagle.
The eagle and the goose, yes. Yeah, it's going way back now.
So I did send that. You know, Jason, like most people that aren't American that envy America because we're so great, sought victory in his Canada Duck escaping the
Listen, it's a
grasp of an American eagle.
The Canadian goose does not go around preying on other animals. Its job is to survive. It survived. It did its job, therefore it won. The eagle's job is to eat the goose. It failed. The goose won.
I don't know, man. Like, that's a really weak that's a weak job, man. That's like
everybody's got to fill a role, man.
That's a weak job. And did you see that? So Elijah just joined, and again, Elijah, thank you again. He definitely helped me big time this week. Earned some stripes. Went home with a beautiful leopard. Samson actually, that was the only other one that Samson considered holding back, for the record. He's when he saw his girl, and we found out it was a girl, he said, "Oh, that's a definite holdback." And then the beauty of the single gene leopard, he was like, "I want to hold him back too." And I'm like, he's a boy. We have 1 million leopards.
Yeah, now you can plug leopards specifically into projects a lot quicker with that single gene. We've talked about this before. I'm a definite proponent or fan of that idea, to be able to up the odds. Like, let's face it, sometimes with what you're saying, you have a lot of leopard going around, but there's a lot of genes. You don't necessarily want to be throwing all of those genes into the mix when you're specifically trying to hit a leopard combo per se, right? So that's my view on the thing. It's nice to have some solid single geners to be able to speed up those projects. Now, get me off fucking solo screen. Fuck, I hate that.
I love messing with your anxiety. So So Jason tried to diss me and call me T-Rexy, not realizing, Elijah, you had already hit me with the B-Rex. But I had not seen the CVI. Oh, I like that. So look, you got another AKA. You got the acronym for Canadian Vanilla Ice.
Oh, we still got to figure out how that all started. Who was the first one? I think it was Chad personally, but I think
Well, I didn't get it from Chad.
episode one.
That's a fact. Okay, and I think maybe someone had heard it from Chad, and I mean, we would have to go through 23 previous episodes.
Put that one out.
You know, maybe we'll do a contest. Maybe we'll have a contest out there, and whoever can discover the first time Vanilla Ice was said on the show, and
It'll have to be like the first one that fires it back or something. But now we've already thrown it out there, so
we're gonna have to talk to that. We're gonna have to talk to that. So, are you coming to Daytona Beach in August? How are you, Charm Slinky? Well, I know for a fact Jason is. He's not even allowed out of his house after 7
not even allowed to
o'clock.
get a fucking haircut, bud. It's so out of control.
They're not even allowed out their house after 7 o'clock. That's when the Canada Ducks go crazy. So they lock them up so they don't get attacked by the Canada Ducks.
The chicken cobras?
The chicken cobras, right? I'm not sure, since I'm still transitioning. I might not be able to make the next Daytona, which kind of sucks. I actually have a timeshare that's based out of Daytona. I have a timeshare for like I don't know how many years, paid in full. I've used it once. What a freaking hustle that thing is. It was gifted to me though, so I will say that. So, but Daytona should be a good time. I mean, Arlington was a good time. The shows are opening up, but I will share a little secret. We are in the planning stages of creating some of our own events, not replicating what's already out there, trying to add some new and exciting things to the mix. And that includes something pretty local in September out in Long Island. So we'll talk more about that as the time comes. And then starting next year, you should hear about something that I'm planning on doing on the beautiful island of Puerto Rico. I just talked to. I don't know if you talk to your snakes, Steve, or if you threaten them, but any way you put it, they do respond. They do listen. So I'm very very happy about that. Wait, what did Lindsay say? Uh-oh, I missed it.
Just making a valid point.
Oh, here we go. Hey Rexy, how you gonna bash Canada when you moved way up there to sniff its ass? Listen, the border is shut, so there's no ass sniffing going on. We still can't get across the border. And here's the crazy part, that the area I am in is so reserved. I mean, it's beautiful as far as nature is concerned. I am waiting for the border to open up. Like getting my wife to move here, part of that sale was Montreal. Like we're city people. So we need the city, you know, we need a city. So we're like in between Montreal and Burlington. So Montreal actually wins that battle. So open up, guys. You know, I want to take Samson to the Grand Prix. Yes, yes. One of the best things, and I definitely agree. I won't be going, but live here and would love to meet any awesome reptile folks who come. So I definitely agree. And I think one of the greatest things about the shows is when you get to meet people. I've mentioned it before. I got to meet Angie and Jim when I went to Arlington, and they were on a short list of people that I was looking forward to meeting. It was cool also that there were so many people in attendance that I had already met at previous shows, and now you're hanging out in another state at another event, a different venue. Shows, Jason, it's like they have these venues, they rent out these venues, and a bunch of like reptile people.
So long since I've seen even one advertised here, man. It's ridiculous.
Patrick, what show? What show do you have, and where's that at? I definitely would like to hear about that. And I'm wondering how it goes up here. I don't know if Vermont has anything. I don't know what happens up in Upper New York in the North State. I think that's what they call it up here, the North State. So I'm definitely interested in finding out more about that in the North State. In the North State, West New York and Batavia. Okay, for first of all, unless I'm crazy, Batavia definitely sounds like some Iron Curtain communist country more than some place in West New York. But I will look
You
into
know,
that. Okay, I will definitely look into that. What's up, Chino? He said, "Hey, gentlemen." I think he was talking to me.
I knew you were
Uh,
getting there.
I don't think he was talking to you. So
Because
I'm
he's
just.
making reference to plural.
Ooh, that was cute. Ooh. So I said it last night that um Mike from Banana Bread came on and started busting chops on Bowling with Brian about my scruff over here. So my first 5 pounds, I'm gonna trim it down. So that should be by next week. Then my next 5 pounds, I'm gonna take the beard off. Then the 5 pounds after that, the mustache should come off. Then 5 pounds after that, it'll be just a goatee. And then you guys are gonna see how beautiful I am underneath all of this. Like underneath all of this scruff, there's some beauty, man.
Just ask you, right?
uh,
Oh, what's going on, John?
yes, Angie, I definitely agree. I think I would have enjoyed seeing you more this week than that week. So, in case you didn't know, she was impersonating Lloyd Christmas this week and had a chipped tooth. It was awesome. I told her to put a chiclet there. It's the quickest, easiest, cheapest way to fix it. So Angie is gonna go hunt you down. Angie, this guy lives like in a log cabin somewhere. He's not even gonna let you know where he lives. He lives off the grid. You could definitely stay with us. What is up, John? I want to give John kudos from Underworld. He did his first live yesterday.
I saw that.
I popped another cherry.
I tolerated you for what, an hour and a half?
Yeah, about an
That
hour
in
and
itself is a commendable action.
an
I know what
hour.
it's like. I tip my hat to you, sir.
So he definitely did a good job. I figured, you know what? He's such a prick in the comments all the time. Let's put him on the spot, but let me tell you, he handled it like a pro. And if you think about it, I've done quite a few cherry poppins out there, and most of them did really well. I think like once you do it and you just get past the first little few minutes of what's going on here, I think people fall into their flow and they realize it's just like having a conversation, just like talking. So I think that's pretty much it.
So,
What's up, Miranda?
why don't we share what we were getting into prior and we got lost in discussion, hence why we forgot to come on time.
What were we
I
talking
say we
about?
politely, but we both know who's in control of the buttons.
Me. Me. Go ahead. I forgot what we were talking about.
We're talking about the, oh, for fuck's sakes, the
Get the
bathing of the snakes.
Oh, I wanted to wait for Claudio to join us.
Oh, is he joining us? Even better.
No, I'm
Lots
sure
the
he
whole
will. I
story.
know he called me a little bit. I was taking a nap. That's what old people do and grandfathers. And Alan actually called me to say hi. Kudos to Alan who had. Oh, don't look at my big mess. He's still unpacking. Um, and hopefully my internet's better. I'm all the way in the back in the kitchen by where the room is. They're coming tomorrow to fix it because I was on AOL dial up yesterday. What the hell? Why am I on solo? What happened to Jason? There he goes. Okay. Um, so I wanted him to join. So I was busting his chops too. But yeah, I don't want to talk about him and him not be here. I like to talk about people in their face. Right in their face. Right in their face. Talk
Stir
about you.
that pot. He wants to see
Yeah.
eyes when he presses the button.
No, I don't stir pots. What are you talking about? Who called me a pot stirrer? Somebody did call me a pot stirrer. I don't know. I don't stir that pot. I don't listen to too many podcasts. Most of these guys bore me. I don't care how many years, and I've said it before, and you could say shots fired or whatever. But a lot of these podcasts are boring, and I get it. They have to do what they have to do to sell their snakes and stuff. Really don't care how many years you've been in the reptile community or whatever the case is. If you're boring or corny, it just doesn't appeal to me. But in the few that I have watched, um, I forgot what I was even saying. My ADHD got me looking at it got me looking at the beautiful trees, guys. You don't understand. The trees are so beautiful. But yeah, I forgot what I was talking about. Sorry about that.
We had been discussing, Claudio, the bathing, putting people on the spot, you liking to put people on the spot, then not being
Oh
attached
yeah,
to
yeah,
it.
shit stir or whatever. So I don't know. If you think about it, most of the people do stir pots and everything, and that's what gets the others to come back.
The most
And
controversial stuff always gets the most reaction and the most views, right?
yeah, people want drama. I know I spoke with a few of you about it, that I was approached about doing a reality show on the snake world. Would you imagine that? That would be kind of cool. But the first thing they said was, there might be a show here. Okay. So that was pretty cool. And then they went on to say, but is there drama? And it was so funny. I started reaching out to people like, tell me some of the stories that happened in your years, like some of the drama. There's a lot of drama, man, in this in the snake world.
Drama tends to follow money, right?
Uh-huh. It sure does. It sure does. Gomez did. What did I miss?
Sure, what did Gomez do?
It's Italian, Batavia. I don't know. I got lost there in that one. But Gomez is my guy. So yeah, we'll definitely think. I don't want to do a reality show though. It was supposed to be like a reality show, and I just think based on all the stories I heard, it would be cool to have a scripted show, kind of like Law and Order. Like it's not, it's based loosely on real events, and do something like that. Oh, Gomez said I stir the pot. Yeah,
You
Gomez is
do,
all.
and you love doing it. You get this little shine in your eye when you start stirring it. Don't even like right there. See, he's thinking
but
about it.
but it's not done intentionally. It's just done, and so I have this thing in my brain. Like if I'm thinking it, I almost feel like I have to say it, and my wife hates it. Um, and she just hates it because she says that I say things that could be hurtful to people. But my whole thing is like I'm helping you. So even if it's hurtful, I'm helping you build like some tough skin. And the world is a rough place. It's a
Yeah, but in
rough
a lot of
place
ways
out
to
there.
argue that, I can think of a lot of crazed dictators that have believed the same thing before they went on their path of mayhem. So, I think you said it earlier. The path to hell is paved with good intentions. So,
Well, at least my intentions are good.
yeah, fair enough.
And it's
I
funny because
admire your ability to speak your mind as much as you do. We've talked about this before. I'm probably the more reserved of the two of us, and it goes well together, and we banter well, and we make fun of each other and hassle each other constantly. But I do admire the ability to just not give a flying fuck and say what you think to people the way you do. Maybe it's not always the best timing, but
see,
that's your life.
I think that's where there's room for improvement. Like somebody could be in a real funk. Like I mean, I just start thinking throughout the years the times that I've really didn't take timing into consideration. Like I remember a college girlfriend sharing with me that her father had cheated on her mother, and I'm from the South Bronx. We have like different problems, like and that she found out her father took her out on their boat, and I was just like, are you serious? Like we got real world problems where I'm from, and I wasn't very compassionate. So yeah, I can dig it. But yeah, so we can talk about that and other what other controversial practices. We're rambling on here, and this is one of the things you make me do. But what other controversial practices, guys? Those of you that are on here, what other controversial practices that are out there? Let's talk about some of those. Like for
People
example,
dumping animals when there's a problem and getting out of the game because they've encountered something they can't get out of, and they're just trying to hustle everything they got to make one more spin on it.
um,
That's
that's one. That's something. But I'm thinking more like keeping, for example, feeding outside of their tub, moving to feed, and we just spoke about bathing, and we'll speak about that more when I put Claudio on the
essentially
spot.
adding additional stress to the animal without gain or benefit per se.
But see, that's my thing. And then what happens is, and I mean, there's so many videos I've seen where people are doing things that
Cutting eggs.
that increase the stress of ball pythons, just based on years of keeping and learning. We're not where we were in the 80s. We John and I talked about that yesterday. Like, 25 years ago when he got his first ball pythons, who cared about humidity or light? You had the big heat lamp.
I still see it. I still see it in posts. It's probably one of the things I see most often that kind of makes me shake my head a little is the big spotlight on them. I like the natural terrariums. I do. I understand that. But again, yeah.
All
Undo
right,
your
so we
stuff
got
and start
we
throwing
got
them
some
in.
topics here. Let's take them down. So cutting
Have at
eggs,
it.
I
You're gonna anyway.
I love it. So great topic. This one should have been like towards the end. All right, so for me, Jason, do you cut or do you not cut?
We've discussed this. I
Well, we're
prefer
not on that. We're not on that episode right now.
I prefer to not cut where possible. You fucking asshole. Um, I do prefer to let them pip on their own, just because I found that in general they appear to eat better off the hop. I do cut. I'm not saying I don't, but I tend to hope for the best that I don't have to. And then if the timeline is reached, I will generally wait till the first one's pipped, and then I will start cutting, as so long as there's not a great distance um, between one egg and the heat pad versus another egg. So depending on how my incubator may be set up at the time, some eggs may be closer to the heat pad than others. And depending on how many egg cartons or how many cartons of eggs are in the incubator at once, that's going to affect the airflow of the incubator. And there is a slight temperature variation from top to bottom, especially when you get into bigger incubators. And when you start dropping a bunch of plastic tubs inside with eggs, you're disrupting the airflow. So I have found that the distance between the eggs to the back heat tape can make a difference sometimes in terms of development. So that's why I prefer to let those ones kind of go on their own. And I try to set all the eggs horizontally, but I will cut if I feel it's necessary. I have done it in the past. I'll continue to do it, but it's a play by ear for me. Go ahead, have at her. I know you're dying to say it. Can't hear you.
Look at that, guys. I muted myself. Write
Well
that down. You can enjoy it. I was quiet for a minute. All right. So I can respect that. There's a methodology there. There's a philosophy. There's purpose. There's a reason with the intent of allowing them to pip. So I can dig that. As human beings, and I know we shouldn't always compare the two, but I'm not talking about emotions here. Um, Women have cesareans, right? They have C-sections, but usually, more often than not, there's a health reason for it. Correct? So we don't just go cutting open women to
There's
take
a
out their baby.
biological reason behind it, whatever that case may be. Whether.
Right. So I agree with that. So I can understand that. But then
But I
if you
mean,
hear
like, let's not kid ourselves. Financial plays into that hugely, because if there wasn't a lot of money at play with these eggs, I would let them pip on their own. And if they didn't pip on their own, I would say Mother Nature has taken its course. The strongest have survived, and they will pass on the best genes. But that's breeding in terms of your own pets, or in terms of a small project that you're doing, or if you're really getting into line breeding. But with what we're doing, I've noticed time and time again that the most expensive eggs are always the ones that tend to have the first problems or more problems than the others, and that comes into multiple recessive genes. We've talked about this before. So I don't see a problem with giving them the leg up or, putting in that extra effort to make sure that those babies survive, because let's face it, in some cases this could make or break your year if you're doing this for financial gain or if you're trying to recoup your costs. You lose a $3,000 or $4,000 egg, you're going to feel it. So, how many times have we seen people cut open eggs where the umbilicus is tangled and have saved that snake because of it? So
Well, how many times have people
cut an egg
caused
prematurely and killed the snake because of it?
exactly,
This
exactly,
again comes
or
down to knowledge and knowing what you're doing
but there's no way
before
to
you
know.
jump
The only way
into it.
you can honestly know that these eggs are cooked is when they start pipping. And if they started pipping, just let them pip. Okay, let them pip. They have an egg tooth for a reason.
Well,
But
let's face it, if you do this enough, you're watching your eggs frequently enough, and you're knowing those stages of development just by looking through the egg and candling the egg. By the end of it, you can damn near tell what pattern's going on and whether you've hit the animal you're hoping to hit.
so that's my point. See, my point is when, and I'm glad you brought it because you did really well and then you screwed it up for me. So
There's no winning.
for me, the financial aspect of it shouldn't be a determining factor in your practices. So it's kind of like, all right, well, I bred a wild type to a wild type, so let them die. But no, I bred a double recessive to a double recessive, het other recessive, and I have to make sure they survive. You see, so that thought process kind of like bothers me. And then what happens now is because these are pricey animals and we are tempting the odds gods, and we're trying to get that one out of 116 snake that
That you've
you
been working
create.
on for 7 years.
And now, because of YouTube, because of social media, everyone's cutting eggs just because they think that's what they're supposed to do.
See, now this rolls back to what we've talked about before, where people who shouldn't necessarily be sharing their experiences yet are jumping the gun. We talked about the medicine being injected. I think it was last week we found
I'm
that.
sorry, just for the record, Steve, the 80s were a horrible decade. I mean, the worst music, the worst clothes. We things were just jacked up. I mean, the 70s, they weren't that bad, but yeah, the 80s were just a mess, man. Just a mess. Reagan, I blame it all on Reagan.
Steve, we were off the 80s and you brought him back to it. I'm just pointing that out. I had
So,
him on snakes. We were back on track. And now
yep.
we
Now
deviated.
you brought me to the 80s. Now I'm freaking looking at like Cyndi Lauper and I'm looking at Olivia Newton-John. Let's get physical, physical. So isn't she
Oh,
Canadian? Isn't she Canadian? No, she's British. Yeah, you don't even get that one. Oh, you guys got Jim Carrey and Angie was looking like Jim Carrey from
focus.
Dumb and Dumber. So
Focus.
so all right, so that's what I'm saying. And it's exactly that. Though but why wouldn't I, as a newbie, want to share my experience? Think about it. How excited I am. How I've been anticipating this.
Because depending on how you're presenting it, other newbies are following in your footsteps, not realizing the errors or mistakes that are being made. And as such, that problem is passed on. I personally don't see why we're still seeing spotlights on ball pythons. There's no need for it, in my opinion, especially in captive enclosures. It's not the same as natural sunlight. I don't care how you put it. A sun and a light bulb are not the same. They're not on the same even playing field. If it comes down to UVB, or which we both know that ball
Yeah,
pythons
but
don't
even, that's
require,
a horrible argument for the
it creates
light bulb because the
burns,
sun,
problems,
they hide from the
deviation.
sun. So that's
What?
a horrible comparison. They
No, it's
hide.
not, because this is my point. People look at putting, oh, you fucking asshole. People look at putting a bulb on their reptile and say, this is like simulating the sunlight for them. And even if you take UVB light, it's not the same. It's a much degraded value of UVB that they're gaining from it. And the bigger problem is, more often than not, people are placing too big a bulb in too small of a habitat, or too close to the animal, and it's resulting in burns because either it's a spotlight and it's heating up a very small portion of the reptile as opposed to a complete body heat being provided, or it's not an ample enough heat and there's hot spots from the bulb. The bottom line is you're asking for more problems than you're benefiting. And ball pythons are a reclusive animal that spend 90% of their time or a great portion of their life in a habitat, out of the sunlight, away from predators. And then these same people are saying, why is my snake never come out? It's always in its hide.
That's what I just said. That's exactly. I just said that the sun is horrible because they spend their time hiding from the sun.
Sure, I cut you off before you finished.
You just like to argue a lot. Either that or you had a few Coronas before the show started.
No, just starting.
Oh, okay. So again, cutting versus non-cutting. If you know what you're doing, I have no issue with it. But
I think that's the biggest point for all of this is if you know what you're doing, and you know.
But well, that's another thing. You don't know what you're doing until you do it. So my whole thing is that while you're learning new experiences, it's something that you should do with a mentor. It's something that you should do with someone. Okay. And I'll be honest with you, I will always just argue the benefits over not cutting to cutting. And it's just natural, you know. Sean from Leverage Genetics, he said it. He won't cut again. You know, he cut prematurely. I would think it was prematurely, and that would be because it was a maternal incubation, and they have to cook a little bit longer, right?
Yep.
So he cut prematurely. It left additional or created additional space, additional room in the egg, and the animal it knotted itself up. It was fine, and then the next day it's knotted up with its umbilical cord. So I'll always make the argument that the food response is just better, and it's the way it was intended. So
I won't argue with that. I just when you're like I said, when you're doing it to, let's face it, make money and cover costs, there's a different variable at play there. And if I can give them that edge at that point when I know what kind of value we're working on, yeah, I'm gonna give them that edge because again, how much time, how much money, how much effort has been put into this particular project. And the reason I mention recessive genes versus wild to wild is because you're not breeding wild to wild for 7 years hoping to get a normal. That doesn't happen. So there's not the same time investment and effort put into it. That's why I'm saying I would give that extra opportunity to the recessive. Or if I'm going for a specific line breeding project, but generally speaking, that's not going to be happening in a ball python. So seems kind of irrelevant. Now take me off fucking solo camera.
So I see Eric from Drop Time said, wait for the first one to pip, then cut. I still don't agree. I mean, I think that's a bare minimum. But
well, you mentioned this, that's what I was saying earlier. But it also depends on how close the eggs are. Are they all the same distance from the heat source?
And my thing is, if you were able and disciplined enough to let that first one pip, let them all pip. I know that someone
within 24
recently,
hours, yeah.
I know someone recently had asked me something, and I told them this is what I do, blah 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 blah, and
I hear that too, Steve.
And they did it, you know.
He scoops in a quick mouthful.
I'm being considerate. I'm being considerate, guys. I'm eating salad. First of all, be proud of me for eating salad. Okay, I told you I got to shave this beard, so I got to drop 5 pounds. So I'm being considerate, and it has a lot. It has a lot of croutons in it, and they got that crunch. So I'm being very considerate. So yeah, that's my whole thing. If you let one pip, let the rest pip. Why are you gonna let? Why are you gonna let?
But what happens after 24 hours? Do you still wait?
I mean, I would wait.
24 hours has passed. The rest haven't pipped. What are you doing?
I'm leaving them.
48 hours has passed.
I'm leaving them. Listen, Sparta, throw them off the cliff, man. Okay.
So you're willing to potentially let those 7-year projects just slip out of your fingers?
So does my voice always get that high when I'm being considerate? Yes. When I'm being considerate, and sometimes when I'm being belligerent, it gets very high pitched. So All right, so let's move on to the next topic. As you guys know, Shakespeare can go on forever. Um,
Says the
I
one
like
that can outtalk me.
I like this one. I think that
This is a good one.
this should be a no-brainer, but based on a post I had seen not so long ago, and I should look it up now. Based on a post that I had seen not so long ago, I mean they defended cohabbing. They bashed other people. Um, yeah, I don't know. Like when you can check into a tank and see that one ball python ate another one, I'm still gonna say it's not a good idea.
You think?
Yeah, pretty much. So let's talk cohabbing and why we shouldn't. And I'm gonna be blatant about that one. This one is kind of like if they're not in a, obviously you're gonna cohab to recreate, right? When they're born, you're cohabbing, but that's because they hatched, out of out of the same time. But just as a common keeping practice, I am very anti cohab. So, what are your thoughts on that?
When it comes to ball pythons or other snakes, no, I'm not cohabbing. The only cohabbing that's taking place is when they're being paired for breeding. And even then, I tend to keep an eye on which ones, cohab peacefully and which ones just don't get along. We've talked about this before. I don't believe you can just throw ball pythons in the same tub and that they're going to naturally, there's not going to be any problems. My experience has taught me that ball pythons have a preference between other mates. I've tried pairing certain ones together that will have nothing to do with each other and are at opposite ends. And then I've noticed that the same ones that pair time and time again will always pair together peacefully. I've had ones where they haven't gotten along, and no matter what time of day I'm opening that tub, they're always at opposite ends of the tubs. I make note of that, and I try not to pair them again. I'll try a few things, adding in different sheds or different paper towels from other males or females that they may have bred with to try and stimulate that. But for the most part, I'm making note of that, and I stand by that. That's my personal belief that they do have a preference. They don't just breed with any other ball python. There has to be some sort of pheromonal attraction between them. I'm not saying I know the science behind it. I'm just saying those are my observations. Monitors, there's a lot of arguments about this back and forth. Again, the bottom line is more often than not, you hear stories of predation between the two. And I personally believe that unless you're have raised them, you know what, even then I've seen problems. I've had Savannah monitors that I've raised together, that I've bred together successfully, hatched clutches together, and they've still fought. Appendages have still been lost between the two of them. And these are animals that have cohabbed together for 6-7 years without a problem, that have grown up together. At the end of the day, they're a wild animal. It can't be predicted, and win and down, play it safe. So I'm anti cohab. I do have buddies that raise monitors, and I respect them greatly, and they cohab, and they haven't had problems. But you haven't had a problem until you've had a problem, and then generally speaking, it's too late. So
I think that's like such a perfect way to say it. It isn't a problem until it is a problem. One of my best practices outside of this world, also here, but if there's the opportunity for it, take it out. Okay, and even if it's minuscule, but if there's an opportunity for something to make something go wrong, take it out. Okay, and that just gives you a greater chance. You just want to go? That gives you a greater chance for success. That's just reality, right?
also make sure you know how to read the body language of your animals. After a certain point of doing this, you can open a tub and tell what's going on with that snake to a certain degree, whether it's going to strike at you, whether it's going to be calm with you handling it. You can open up a tub with two animals together and tell whether they're getting along, whether they're, what's the word I'm looking for, courting, versus they're not having anything to do with each other. And this just comes with time and experience and exposure. But learn to know your animals, learn to read their body language. You see animal reptiles stacking on top of each other. That's a pretty good indication of dominance taking place and one animal trying to get the better positioning than the other. You see it in bearded dragons all the time. They're not cuddling. They're stacking to get closer to the heat and get those prime basking spots. So what's going on, little man?
Hi, Jason.
Just for the record, Elliot said, "Hello, everyone. My favorite podcast, Super Tag Team. I'm
Thank you,
I'm
sir. That
Andre
means
the
a lot.
Giant, and he's like one of the midget wrestlers." Okay.
Hi,
I
everybody.
would think of David and Goliath, but whatever.
David and Goliath weren't a team. They
Who
were
said we're a
enemies.
fucking team?
He said it. He said it. He said it. Tell him there's no P in Samson. There's no
No
P.
pee, no
I knew
pee.
that was coming.
No P in Samson. Brian with a Y. Come on now. All right. Get up in
Uh,
the room. All right. So yeah. So cohabbing, I just don't see outside of pairing or them just being hatched. I see no reason for it. If there's no reason for it, then why do it? If there's an opportunity for something to go wrong, such as creating the stressors, um, making it go off feed, making them literally one snake eat another, like it's just not necessary. But obviously, just like anything else, you're gonna have to have people that want to do it their way. You know, I mean, it's 2021. You still see 9 month pregnant women smoking in this world. Like it's been determined. You know, you don't do it. I'm a perfect example why you're not supposed to smoke when pregnant. You know, I'm a '70s baby. You know, they used to just toke away, and at least they didn't know. So the garters are all right.
that's kind of
Obviously,
a different situation, though. That takes place in nature, especially in Canada, their hibernation, or their brumation, rather. Again,
brumation,
though, the
fancy
bottom
word.
the bottom line is when you're putting them into a restricted environment where they're getting a far greater natural footprint to work with, you're restricting the options and you're increasing the odds of a problem. It's the same idea as you can only keep so many fish in a tank because of how much waste that particular miniature biosphere can handle. The same principle remains the same with cohabbing reptiles. Cohabbing any animal to a certain point, you can't overdo it. And with reptiles, the required solo footprint is far greater than what we can provide in captivity on average. I won't even cohab my tortoise. I want to get her a partner, but I also know that there's so many potential problems that can happen. Tortoises will bully each other, they'll ram each other, they'll peck at each other, or they'll bite at each other. So, you know, um, at the end of the day, the only reason I'm going to cohab is for breeding purposes. And that's probably going to be a temporary setup because time and time again, I've either seen problems, read about problems, or experienced problems myself. So,
I can dig it. All right, so we have another topic here. John is just on fire today. You see, John, you did a live yesterday, and now you are alive, man. You are alive. You got to do them more often. Oh, actually, it wasn't John, so I take it back, man. Sorry, I retract that statement. But we're gonna go
track that's
Tanks
Tanks
versus.
versus Brax.
I don't find this one as controversial, to be honest with you.
Again, I see benefits to both. It depends on what you're keeping. I've seen
Well, let's
successful
talk. Let's
operations
talk.
done
Let's
in.
talk about my balls. How about we talk about my balls?
I'd rather not. But I also think there's a certain way to set up an aquarium or a terrarium, and I'm a huge proponent of blacking out all sides except for the front and the top, and even the top should have a closed off portion to keep humidity in. And the reason I'm a huge proponent of blacking out all sides is to give that animal that extra security. When you put them in an aquarium, they're vulnerable on all points, and let's face it, ball pythons among other snakes, are victim to predation more often than not, especially from above, predation from ambush. So you want to keep that stress level down. You want to see that snake active in its habitat, get the spotlight off it, close off all the areas, and make it feel secure. And you'll see that animal moving around its habitat more.
So that's my thing. My thing is, first of all, the purpose I think most would want a tank is obvious, is so they can see the animal. What sucks about a ball python, it's just not that snake. Okay, it's not gonna give you what you're looking for. Okay, it's not going to satisfy that need to see it and to see it active.
To handle it and take it out
Right.
all the time.
You
This
know,
again stems back to what we've said before. Study the reptile, find a reptile that matches what you're looking for, rather than force a reptile to do what you want it to.
and let me tell you something. First of all, when it comes to the tanks, I mean, I've seen tiny, and it comes to tub sizes too. I mean, I saw someone teaching people how to set up a tub, and the tub size was so inappropriate
The
to
heat pad was
the
inappropriate. The whole
size of the animals and everything like that. But just when it comes to a tank, right? So the reality is most ball pythons should never need more than a 20-gallon tank. Okay. And I don't call them aquariums because you're not putting aqua in there. Okay, where they are terrariums. Thank you very much. But most will never need more than a 20 gal, especially when they're young. A 10-gallon is fine, and then if you have a 10-gallon with an appropriate heat source, you don't even really need a heat pad with a ceramic heat emitter. And that's another thing. You don't put lights on a tank. You should have a ceramic heat emitter that doesn't have any lighting source and that just emits heat.
I'm a UTH. I'm all about the under tank heaters when it comes to ball pythons. I don't like seeing ceramic heat emitters. I get what you're saying,
Well, the
but
thing is that even if you have the and again, this is regarding a 10-gallon. So we're talking about a hatchling that was born, setting up their environment. I agree with you 100%. Black out all three sides. Um, in order to get to the humidity levels that are ideal, you have to cover the majority of the
at least 75%.
right. And the ceramic heat. If you don't have a ceramic heat emitter, and the only time I would recommend not having one is if you have perfect ambient heat in a snake room. But most people that are using tanks, let's be realistic, they don't have that situation. This is someone that has one or two snakes and they're in their living room next to their television underneath their bright light, and you're not going to get the ideal temps. The UTH is going to give you the perfect hotspot. It'll give you the ideal hotspot, but it's not going to give the tank its proper ambient temperatures. And if your room is below 75 degrees, you'll probably never hit the ideal ambient temperatures there, even with a ceramic heat emitter. And if
See,
you have a ceramic heat emitter, you need a dimmer. Um,
what size? See, this is to me, this is where the problem comes in, because now you have to consider the size of the ceramic heat emitter. You have
right.
to remember that there's a hot point in the center of that beam versus the outside. How big is that center of the beam? Because now the ball python's coiled up and only portions of its body are getting that intense heat, versus the outer portions are not getting as much heat. But when
Yeah,
you
but as dumb as they are, as
under
dumb as
tank
they are,
heater, the same heat is distributed throughout the bottom. So their whole body, as long as that heat pad is the appropriate size, their whole bottom is receiving an equal amount of heat from the tape.
right, but you have to remember they
And
thermoregulate, so
it
they're going to
comes
slide
down
and move
to
back and forth, and
idiot
they're going to
proofing.
need the air. They're going to need room for it. And when you're talking about a 10-gallon tank, there's not a lot of real estate in there.
See,
So
by the
so
same token, I would never advise someone to get, and not to disagree with you, but I'd never advise somebody to get a
no,
10.
you are disagreeing with me. That's exactly
Well,
what you're doing.
I
That's
would
exactly what
never
you're doing.
advise for someone to get a 10-gallon tank for a ball python to begin with. What I would do is advise them to go with probably a 40-gallon breeder.
But you
And
see, that's too big. Now you're
if
going to stress.
anything, I
Now
can't
you're going
even
to stress them out.
finish my sentence. If anything, I would advise them to restrict a portion of that tank and then slowly expand that barrier as the animal grows, so that the animal is still used to its habitat, its scents, etc. are
But
there,
again,
and you're not spending excess
even
amount of money buying
but
new tanks,
here's the
upgrading
problem,
them,
Jay.
etc.
Would you put a hatchling in an FB70 tub?
What size is that?
That's
700?
the biggie.
Would I put? No, but I can't divide that as equally as I can with a terrarium.
Right, but even if you want
If
to divide the, hold on a second now,
if
let me
I'm
finish my
setting up a
sentence.
terrarium,
If
I'm
you
doing it
were to
for the
cut off the
visual aspect.
terrarium, you're still not a 40-gallon. Do you know what it takes to get that to proper temperatures and proper humidity in a 40-gallon breeder? That's all you just said it. You in order To
It's
me, I don't care if
easier
you have
to
a tank
portion
or
a
a tub.
40-gallon breeder than it is to portion a tub, in my opinion. And
Whether
if you're getting
whether
a terrarium, you're doing it for a naturalistic approach. And at the same token, you don't want to be investing the same amount of money over and over to upgrade that single unit. If you're doing plastic tubs, you probably have a racking system. You probably have several sizes ready to go, or at least if you're handling a hatchling and breeding them, you better, because you're going to need it as you expand.
whether you have a 40-gallon breeder, and at no time, honestly, I mean, the only time I would even entertain a 40-gallon breeder tank is either to pair two huge adults or you have yourself a 4,000 gram ball python. Other than that, you're gonna stress out that animal no matter how much how many hides you have in
I
there,
tend to
how much
disagree with you on this
enrichment
one,
you have
because
in
when you look
there.
at the available
And
foot
you're
space,
going to,
it's
in
2 foot
order
by
to get,
3 foot.
hold on, my turn. In order to get, in order to get the temperatures, appropriate temperatures, appropriate hot spot, appropriate cool spot, excuse me, appropriate humidity, it's a mission. And I'm saying this
It's
from
harder to
experience.
keep proper
This is
grading
from
in a
experience.
small tank than it is a
This
large
isn't an
tank.
ideology. This is from experience. This is from trying to do it. This is from arguing tanks over tubs to the point where I was just like, at some point I have to concede, and they're just right. It's too difficult. Um, this brings me on to inappropriate tub sizes, where people don't want to put hides in tubs because they feel like it's enclosed. There is a sense of security given to the ball python by being in a tight spot where they can see the one point of entry. That's why log hides aren't
But
ideal.
that can be created with the appropriate hide in that space.
I don't agree that they're born in
Again,
the
though,
wild
this
and no
is the
tank.
difference
This is
between
the whole
keeping
argument.
one for
This is the
display and several for breeding. And I think it's very important that we keep in mind that these are two completely separate issues with their own pros and cons accordingly. But if you're keeping in a terrarium, you're more than likely in a small collection, and you've likely got them set up with some sort of display purpose in mind. And if you take a full grown female, she's going to have coiled up a circumference of, let's say, approximately 12 to 14 inches in diameter. Now, when you look at a 40-gallon tank, that is 24 inches by 36 inches footprint. She's taking up more than 25% of that available space. She's not even able to completely stretch herself out at that point in a 40-gallon tank. It's only 36 inches
and
long.
so this is the argument. So here we have someone saying that they're born in the wild, so no tank is too large. They're born in the wild and they burrow themselves in termite mounds where there's one point of entry.
And
They're
they can
coiled
feel
up.
all
They're
sides
not
against
they're
them.
not living up. They're not living in a living room with the sunlight and a television,
What about
and
music
and
playing?
they crawl over to the bedroom.
You just
No,
triggered me on
they
that.
intentionally go. They're animals. We're all born in the wild, yet we all have certain things that we need for our comfort. So I can't agree with that. And these are the things that stress these animals out, and they're not an issue until they are. Okay? They don't become an issue until 5 years down the road, your animal has been so stressed out for 5 years that you wonder why it died. It didn't die by surprise. It wasn't oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened. No, your animal endured
This
five
just
years
happened
of
overnight.
okay, it didn't happen overnight. Your animal endured 5 years of stress. Your animal did not want to breed, and that wasn't the reason why it wasn't eating. Your animal wasn't eating because it was stressed out. Your animal felt insecure. It felt threatened. All of these things contribute to it. And there are even many breeders that have very few 20-year-old snakes. Okay, that's just a fact. Okay, you don't have too many breeders out there that are for obvious reasons. They sell adults, they don't need them, they move them on, whatever the case is. But not too many breeders are out there talking about their 20-year, 30-year-old ball python. Okay, and a lot of them do have many of them die around that 10, 20, 12-year mark. So either
Females
they were
primarily.
overbred or they were overly stressed. But the whole point is this is an animal that, if properly kept, can live 20 to 30 years easily. And we don't see too many 20 to 30-year-old ball pythons out there.
I think it's also fair to mention to that point, though, that in the reptile world, females' lives are drastically reduced by every clutch they have. That's just a fact. You know, you look at monitors, look at ball pythons, look at chameleons. We can go on and on and on. The more the females breed, the shorter life terms they tend to have. So, how much of that plays into it?
Well, I want to see you
I
go
mean,
and bury a 40-gallon breeder in a termite mound and see how happy that ball python will be. Okay.
what?
I want to see you go bury a 40-gallon breeder in a termite mound in Africa, and let's put cameras in it and see how happy that bull python is. So
I maintain that a full-grown female is still in an ample-sized when you look at a 40-gallon. Look at the size
yeah,
of
yeah. If you're
one of these
talking 3,000, 4,000 gram, I'm not arguing that with you. I'm not arguing. What I'm saying is, in order to get, and again, this is from experience, this is from ignorance, this is from, yes, I did have ball pythons in the 90s, and we didn't have an internet, okay, and we learned from making mistakes, and I did have the tanks, and I did have a freaking 55-gallon with a 200-gram freaking ball python. You learn from trial and error. We didn't have this beautiful thing where you can click on Google and say, hey, Google this. I used to read encyclopedias. I know most of you don't even know what that is. Not Wikipedia, encyclopedia. Okay, it was an actual book. It was a volume of books that you went to, and you had to get them updated every few years because the new information had to be put in there. All right, so yeah, it's a different world, guys. So my whole point is, I don't care if it's a tank, I don't care if it's a tub. What matters most is the environment that you're creating for the animal. Okay. Oh, so we're gonna end. We're at the hour
What's
mark.
going on?
We've been waiting for you, man, because we are talking
Quick
about.
shout out to everybody that's dropped in. See you guys. I can't sit here and rifle off all the names, but we see you coming in. We appreciate you stopping in and listening to us fucking bitch back and forth.
Yeah. I appreciate you guys more than he does. I just want to put that out there. Not that it's a competition or anything, but I appreciate you more, especially since you're all mostly Americans in here. I don't see his Canada Ducks jumping in. So yeah, I appreciate you guys. USA, USA, USA.
Like a
So
typical Canadian, I'll be polite and let you have your fucking moment.
see, Angie knows what I'm talking about. She had a set of Wikipedias. Okay, so
Easy Webster, back on track.
all right, so let's talk about you, Claudio. We've been talking about controversial, keeping
Get it.
practices. So
Things
you
that some
posted
people don't necessarily understand.
a video. I don't know if you want to join us. I can send you the link. You posted a video. Boy, did you get a
All right, last see it was at 33 or 34 comments.
oh, I don't know because I didn't even want to get into it. I told you I saw it and everybody does their own thing. Yes, I don't know if you want to join us. If you want to join us, I'll send you the link. I don't
Be a
know
lot
if you're
easier.
capable of joining us. Do I have my phone here? Yeah. You want to send it to MJ?
You want me to send? I can't send it to him. You've got the fucking controls.
Well, it's the same link I sent you.
Oh my god. You make fun of my technologically impairedness, then you turn. I don't even have Claudio's email.
Okay, send it to his phone. Hold on a second, I'll send it. So we did see the bathing of the hatchlings, and wow, did you get a lot of new fans for that one? um, so let's talk about it, guys. How do we feel? How do we feel? What are our thoughts?
I love the. I'm not gonna point fingers, but I love the ones that acknowledge the lack of knowledge while questioning the knowledge at the same time.
Yeah, but that's just being passive aggressive.
Right? Like
That's like, well,
you kind of cutting out your own legs right now.
I don't really know. I'm new. I don't
Here's
know.
what
You
I'd
should
say in
be
a
doing
case like
this.
that. Look at the man's collection. Look at the pennies that have been invested. Look at the stuff that's at risk, and then judge his experience level.
Good night, Lindsay. Have a great night.
Take it easy. Thanks for joining us.
And stop spelling my
Every
name
like
with an
tab,
I,
we let
damn
you
it.
know.
My name is Bryan. Don't make me start spelling your name with a Y, all right? All right, so I sent it, Claudio. Join us. There we go. All right, so let's get this freaking controversial animal on here. Hey.
Let's
Dude,
go.
I'm killing my animals, all right?
Leave me alone.
All
I'm
right,
done.
so let's talk about it. What happened? What happened? I saw a video. I saw a lot of
I don't know. I guess,
comments.
like I tell everybody, everybody has their own different ways. The reason I do it like that, I avoid hard belly because it's moving the valves on the belly. It avoids infection to umbilical cord because I did have some get infected in the doing this for a while already. So I had 1 or 2 with infections on them. All right. Even if they shed, what happens is that infection stays there and it will leave a scar, pretty bad scar, and everybody thinks it's a kink, and it's not a kink. It's just a bad scar from the infection it had. But I guess everybody works different, man. I've been doing that for 11 years, dude. I've never had a problem, and I don't put 5 feet of water and throw them in there. Okay, that's the first thing. They have probably 2.5 inches of water in there, right? It's 78-degree water. I shoot
They're
them with
not
a gun.
stuck swimming around endlessly. They
Yeah,
can
and,
rest.
and yeah, and it's okay if they swim. It's not that I'm leaving there. I'm not leaving them there for 24
How
hours.
much? We've talked about this before. The amount of iodine to put in the water. How much iodine?
5 mLs.
To how much water? As an example.
Probably a gallon.
So that's a very small amount of iodine to
Yeah,
a
and
really
it's not
large amount of
toxic. It's
water,
just it's a wash soap, And the
right?
one I get is a wash soap. It's the same one they use for any animal that gets flies in them and whatever. So it's made for any kind of wound, pretty much.
That's good you bring it up. I actually need to get some. But
Look,
I
let me show
usually
you
keep
what.
the betadine on hand. We talked about it
So that's what I was
before.
gonna ask. Are we using iodine or are we using
Well,
betadine?
betadine has an iodine or like a 1% iodine solution in it. You're using straight iodine. Now, what's the percentage of providine iodine in that?
Yeah, and it's gentle too. It's not the one that's gonna be toxicity. It's 100% pure. It's 95% iodine, right? It's not that comes with extra chemicals or nothing on it, and it's a wash
But
iodine.
but again, my argument is they're snakes. They're not fish.
I'm on your side, Claudio. I agree
I
with
know
what you're
everybody
doing.
everybody does it different.
You
Like I
know,
said, I've been there for 11 years, and I never had an
So
animal, right?
Claudio hit me up yesterday, and I hadn't seen the comments, and he had sent me some of the comments, and I'm looking, and I'm like, what is this about? And he was like, oh, about my washing the hatchling. So I go and I
I've been
and
doing
I
it for a while, dude.
and I look at it, and I'm just like, oh man, I could see that would
It was
start
for
an
the
entire
scientists.
yeah, I could see that would start an entire controversy. But again, I don't think it's bad because this is how you
Everybody
educate
has their
people.
own methods. The reason I do
thank
it
you
is
for your
because
caution.
when I started doing this, man, the first 3 years I never did the wash or nothing. Um, and it was okay, but I did get the hard belly.
So, quick question: since you've been doing it, so that would be 8 years now that you're doing it.
Yeah,
8 years, that's quite a few hundred, if not thousands, of
yeah,
babies.
a lot, a lot of them.
So have you not? Are you telling me in those 8 years you've never experienced
I
hard
never
belly
had
again?
hard belly after that, dude. Never again. What it is that everybody waits for them to shed. They take out the shells, they check them, put them back in the incubator. I never had that problem with mine. In the beginning, I did. What happens is if your incubator fluctuation changes from degrees, and the snake doesn't want to come out because it feels cozy, the yolk will stay in the same place. I've seen that happen. Everybody has different ideas, like I told you. So
So
there's other people that
where did you
later
get
and
this where did you get this practice from?
what the iodine.
Yeah, where did you get this practice?
I did it. Me and my friends always been talking about problems with this, problem with that, and we're like, well, what's the best thing that could cure an infection on an umbilical cord? Because if you see some snakes and you flip them upside down, you could see that even the scales look nasty because it's a scar from an infection that wasn't taken care of when they were small. You know what I mean? And they keep on shedding and shedding and shedding like any cut in any snake. After they shed, there's a scar. Okay? Regardless if it's a rat bite, you'll see a scar regardless. Okay?
Angie, are you
So,
constipated or are you talking about the hatchlings?
but I've been doing it all this time, dude, and I never had a problem with that. Um,
Hardy's back.
like I told you, and I don't have no snakes with scars.
Come on, dude.
And right now they're going into their shed, so they're
All
they're
right,
fine, dude.
so I can dig it if you're telling me that and hard belly
What
is
it does is
definitely.
does the bowel movement, so it allows the yolk to dissolve. Because remember, the yolk is a ball of grease that's going inside them, pretty much. That's their food. All right. So what it does, it only goes there to the umbilical cord. That's the only way they feed. When they're full, they actually cut half of it and leave the half in the egg. Or some people cut the eggs and bother them too much, and they come out with the whole yolk off.
Drag it behind.
When I cut my eggs, all I do is cut the top. See them? I don't flip them to see what I hit or nothing. I just cut them just to make sure they have the exit. You can say that's the only reason. So if you tell me, oh, you're poking them and all that, I don't poke them. I don't do anything. Actually, I told Alan not to move him when he cut him the first time because he was already trying oh, look at that. And I told him not to do it. I don't move because you're already waking them up. You're already telling them, hey, come out. You don't want
So you did hear Alan agree with me that the snakes are not fish.
Oh, shut up. Alan's going to agree. He's going to say anything to you, Brian. All right? You can tell him laugh and he'll laugh.
All right. He agreed with me 100% that the snakes are not fish. Okay. And he made sure you understood that.
Oh, all right, go to Florida. They're on the water, dude. There's no pythons. They don't drown.
Well, they can't swim, and in Africa they will swim across the water to get from one side to the other, but not ideal.
I don't leave them there for an hour. They're 10, 20 minutes max, and they come out because I don't want them to be in cold water either because they're going to do a temperature change from 80-degree water all the way to the fucking incubator. If I leave them outside for more than that and I do that temperature change, it could actually mess up the snake, and I don't want to do that.
So before we started the show, Jason and I got into this, and I was like, well, and actually we started like 2 minutes late because we started on this topic and we got in this topic, and I was like, I'm anti-soaking. I'm anti-soaking for stuck shed. I have my own process. There's a video on YouTube, guys. Shameless plug. But then he goes, oh, well, what about mites? Well, I'm like, I try not to get mites. And he's like, well, okay, I have had mites twice. I can't say I never purchased a snake that didn't have mites. As a matter of fact, one, I was very fortunate. I wasn't fortunate to buy a snake with mites. Let me correct that. But I was fortunate that it was a bell and it was very obvious that it had mites. So are you heating the water? Like whenever or let's say I had to do a betadine treatment for whatever reason, I can't say I never had a snake that didn't have scale rot or whatever the case is. And some of these things you can't avoid. I do regulate them on a heat pad. Are you putting them on a heat pad or you're just,
No, I temperature the water. I have a purifier here inside the room, a snake room. I have a purifier, so every time I turn on the water, it's passing through a filter system because I don't like. They put too many conditioner here where we are in South Carolina. Why?
Alan, are snakes fish?
Say no with the reptiles.
Nope.
Exactly. Remind Daddy, okay? Snakes are not fish.
So what I do, I just put the iodine in there, man. I shoot it. It has to be 80 degrees, 78 as minimum. And I shoot it 20 minutes later to see what the temperature is because I don't want it to go below 72 or 70 degrees. Reason is because I don't want to shock them. Remember, a snake is made out of pure muscle. It doesn't have legs or arms.
So why don't you just leave them on a heat source so that way the water can stay regulated?
What happened, Alan?
I said, why don't you leave them on a heat source so that way the water can stay regulated and you don't have to worry about it?
Because they're going back to the incubator after I take the slime and the iodine wash. I'm not keeping them there.
I don't care.
Keeping them there for 20 or 15 minutes. That's what I'm trying to explain to you.
I don't care.
Okay, well, that's you, man. If you want to hug and cuddle,
these are your $5,000 snakes, man. That you're freaking turning them into little icicles, man.
The room is temperatured at 80 degrees, man. My room is 80 degrees.
You know what?
First,
my whole room is 80 degrees.
The water doesn't drop from 80.
Oh no, but that's the key. That's the key. But that's key, Jason, and that's what I'm saying. Like, you have to share this with people because people don't understand it. Most people don't have a water source in wherever they're keeping their snakes. Most people don't have snake. That the people that need to know this don't have snake rooms.
Well, and this comes back briefly to what started this. People need to understand
it's always 80 degrees, dude. Nothing changes.
How often are you giving them this iodine soap, Claudio? This is another important thing.
I only give them the first wash, and then
this is not a weekly habit. This is not a monthly habit.
No, dude, it's only the first time. I just want to make sure the umbilical is clean. There's no slime on them. They go back in the incubator. When I take them out, I check them. If they're fine, they go back to the tubs after they're shed. wait 2 days, and try to feed them.
And you don't take a bath with them, right?
I don't know. You saw that guy on fucking Instagram just taking a shower with the fucking big ass anaconda. I'm like, what the
hell? So I'm glad you shared that. I also want to tell you something. I was very impressed with the way you handled it. You
I don't
handled
like it. Dude, everybody works different. I'm not that kind of person. I'm gonna say, no, man. I know more than you. Everybody has their ways, dude. And I've been doing
just
this
for the record. I will say I know more than you, and you also.
Yeah, you Google everything, dude. Anyway, so there's no more encyclopedias here. Everything's
Brianpedia, baby. Brianpedia.
There you go.
Oh God, and his head grew 3 more sizes that night. I hope you're anchored down, bud.
No, but no, you handled it. You handled it like a sport. You handled it like a gentleman. You were under attack, and you always do your Claudio laugh. It annoys the hell out of me. You're like, when you type LOL, I hear you laugh.
And that's good, man. You know my laugh. That's funny. All right, but that's the other thing too. I do every 3 months now. Now that you're saying that, I do a mite prevention every 3 months. Not that my snakes have mites. It's just a precaution I take.
Preventative.
Because I have carpet in my room, in this room, and I have carpet. I prefer carpet than hardwood floor or anything like that because it won't conserve the heat as much as carpet does.
Insulator.
So I use my carpet as insulation, you could say, for the floor, so it maintains the heat.
Alan, how come you never wear a T-shirt?
What happened?
Alan, how come you never have a T-shirt on? Is it because the room is 80 degrees?
He's showing his muscle.
You want to show everybody your big pecs?
Hey, so what I was saying, I do a mite prevention every 3 months because everybody tells me why your snakes were all on paper too. I got a lot of messages. My snakes, every 3 months, they all get switched to paper. I throw all the coconut. Because remember, my coconut, I'm not trying to say my coconut is the best, but I don't change my coconut substrate.
You always say your coconut is the best. What are you talking about?
Well, it is, man. It doesn't fucking mold. I love it, man. I love it.
So don't change it up now.
Anyways, all right. So what I do is I take all the coconut chips. I take them out of the room. My wife uses them for the mulch for the outside, and I put all my snakes on paper. They all get a bath, well, a spray down with ivermectin and soap and water. Okay, I use that. I do that every 3 months to all my snakes.
Why ivermectin? I know why, but again, I think it's important that when we talk about this stuff.
All right, let me get you ivermectin. Let you can see what I use, and you have an idea.
I want to know why you're doing mite prevention every 3 months. What are you doing, bringing mites?
Your boy Brian Gundy preached that years ago.
I know, but that would have to do with it. He has 2 rooms.
So what this does, it kills lice, flyworms, and everything. It's done for cattle, for any kind of infection, any horses. But it kills mites incredibly. I think it does the same thing as Frontline. The only difference is that you do your measurements and you do it the right way. You don't fucking intoxicate.
So why do you need so much mite prevention? What are you doing? Rolling around with mites?
Oh no, it's because I have so many fucking snakes. You know how hard it is to clean 168 snakes to prevent mites? Dude,
I don't want to.
And then when you go to shows, all right, and somebody comes
prevention is worth a pound of cure.
With clothes on. All right.
It's a valid point, man. I don't like touching other people's snakes.
He came in from a show. We went to Repticon in Georgia, dude. We went to Repticon in Georgia last week.
Oh, remember man.
Well, no, I mean like 2 months ago. Remember when I took the pictures and I told her, hey, we're here? So we went to that show, and I had 2 snake rooms. I have a room.
you met Jason's friend Arachnophilia there.
Yeah. No, that was another show. But anyways, that was another. I didn't go with her there. All right, so I came home, and I have 2. I have a breeding room that has. I have a breeding room. Yeah, that's fucked up. Oh, sorry, that's effed up.
He won't even crack a smile.
I know. I noticed that one. Anyway, so we got. We have a breeding room, and then we have this room, which is I had to pull everything upstairs because the babies are back in the room. So now I have everything here. But what happened that time is he went into the snake room, and then out of nowhere, 2 days later, I see one of my snakes inside a water bowl. I'm like, whoa!
Oh man!
I'm like, what the hell? And I look at the water and I don't see nothing floating. But then I wet my hand, because usually this is how I check if I wet my hand real quick and I slide it into her body. And if I see black dots, I'm like, this mother. So I had to take all the snakes out, all the coconut chip, spray the whole carpet down, vacuum it the next day. Okay, I had all the snakes in a quarantine tub, which is in a closet room. Took all my clothes out of the closet room. All right, sprayed them all down, kept them there for 3 days. Then, then we went back and I put them back in the tubs with paper towels. And remember, that's my breeding room, which is I'm very skeptical about that because I don't know how this reacts to a female that's breeding or what, you know. And they were about to lay eggs soon, so I don't know how ivermectin will react. Hopefully, nothing happened, and I had to spray them down because either that, every time I go down there or come up here, I'm gonna be bringing mites, and there's 168 snakes here, and then there's 30 snakes down there.
There's 268 snakes here.
There's 200 snakes.
That is a nightmare.
I know. Yeah. Go.
Yeah, that's definitely a scary. I mean, mites are not fun, and Jason and I have talked about it a million times. You know, you derobe, you derobe at the door as soon as you walk in, throw them in a bag. Yeah, to have to freaking treat a whole collection with mice. I mean, that's just a
well, the good thing it was only downstairs, but I got it. The problem is that coming upstairs was a pain in the ass because I had to take all my clothes off and come upstairs and then go there. It was a pain because I didn't, dude. It's not fun. So this time, and I always been doing it every 3 months. I always do it upstairs. I didn't do it in the breeder room again because they were breeding. So usually that room is sealed. But I do it every time, and now that they're here, I do it every 3 months. I do it. I take all the coconut substrate, like I told you. I put everybody in paper towels. I spray them all down. I do it for a whole week. I spray them down every 3 days.
Yeah. Speaking about coconut substrate, this is 2 weeks. You're supposed to be bringing me 100 blocks.
Yeah, dude. And trust me, I'm actually going next week. So you're taking too long.
I'm keeping my eye on you. All right. Steve said he doesn't believe that you really have coconut substrate. Because I've been telling him about it for so long, and he's like, yeah, sure. All right, guys. So we're gonna wrap it up. Thank you for joining us, Claudio. Like I said,
that's fine, man. I just prefer telling you the truth. I do it every 3 months just to prevent that, and I always wash my snakes, and I never had a snake.
I'm still not gonna bathe my snakes, but I like the fact that you explained.
Everybody has their own.
Explained why you do it the way you know, like, yeah, Jason still uses Vaseline, you know, over KY jelly. Everybody has their way of doing things. My thing is, there is more than one way to skin a cat, as we've said before.
Thank you, Elijah.
We just want to make sure that we're not doing anything to harm the animals, and I think that you just put things into a different perspective. And hard belly, if you had to deal with hard belly, it's not a pleasant thing. It's frightful. So just the fact that
the infection on the umbilical cord sucks too, man. They get bad scars. Sometimes you can't even breed them because they have that ugly kink right there. So you don't want that either.
No, so at least you gave us a new perspective and an explanation on what you do, why you do it, and the results you get from it. So I appreciate that. And like I said, you know, everyone, it's okay to question if even. I mean, Jay, we spoke about it a few weeks ago when I saw that video with the injections, and it really
that was just ghetto.
But if you look at how I think that one of the things that we have to keep in mind is people do things differently, and sometimes people don't know better, right? So we don't have to bash or attack people. Like, I'm not going to immediately bash you for cohabitating your snakes. I'm going to try to show you a different perspective and explain to you why it may not, or rather is not, a good practice. So even with the injections, like, I did not bash that person. I try to come from I'm willing to help you with this angle. Now, whether or not you want to receive assistance, whether or not you want to learn, that's on you. And unfortunately, sometimes people don't learn until their snake dies, until they freaking puncture a freaking organ or something like that. So that's just, I saw that you were under attack. And again, instead of being, you know, coming from a retaliatory type of attitude, you know, you were more like let me explain. And you handled it. You handled it great. So I'm hoping to have learned something, because, like I said, I come at people a certain way, but I don't do good in those situations. I don't do good when I'm under attack. So
well, I took a breather because I'm like, man, you should know a snake is not gonna drown. And you should see the video completely to see that the
well,
snake is not
I don't think the
biting
concern
me
was
or
drowning.
coiling on me. You know, because if a snake is under stress, man, the first thing it does or feels threatened, dude, it'll crawl all over your body and try to fucking flee, or it'll bite you.
Or take a
You know,
shit.
these were chill, you know, not doing anything. They were swimming around. Obviously, first time they touched water, like anything, but they weren't reacting like they were saying. They weren't jumping out of the freaking. Because trust me, a snake could jump out of there. I've seen snakes jump out of there. All right.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I
it's just
appreciate that. I appreciate it.
no,
Thank you for joining us. Jay, is there anything that you want to share before we sign off?
The only thing I'll say on this subject is if I'm treating a snake for some sort of condition or I'm giving it a betadine bath, I have a couple empty bins in my rack and I use those with the betadine solution. And I use that because there's the heat pad in there to maintain that somewhat of an ambient temperature. But other than that, I mean, if you're going to soak an animal or if you're going to soak a ball python, there's an appropriate time and place for it. It generally, like we said, revolves around some sort of medical condition. There's other ways to assist with shedding. I'm not saying I haven't done it, but it's such a dick.
he can't even leave me alone there.
I'm a proponent of both sides of the fence. I mean, I understand.
Well, again, my room is 80 degrees, so there's no big room temperature change, so it's not going to.
No, and I get that, and I think that's the important thing too. Like Brian said, it's important that because there's so many variables that we just take for granted. I know that the temperature in your room is at least 80 degrees. I know that the water temperature is not going to drop that significantly in that 20-minute period, but that comes with experience, that comes with knowledge. And when you're scrolling through Instagram, looking at videos quickly, you're not getting all that knowledge. And how often are people I start getting the fucking cane, eh? Just dragging me off stage.
I didn't want to forget. I didn't want to forget to do it.
I think so often people are also looking for that moment to kind of, hey, look at me, look what I know.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing too, though. If you're gonna watch somebody and before you talk about somebody or try to post something that you don't know, watch the whole video and then you'll be like, okay, well, let me ask him this. Now you say, oh, they're swimming, they're under stress, and then not keep on watching the video, then I'll see the end of the video. So that's why I told him, see the end of the video, see how the animals are reacting. They were all coiled like a little ball, which I picked up and I took a picture of them. They went back in the incubator. It's done. They weren't killing each other. They weren't choking each other. They weren't trying to run away. They were just coiled as a ball like they usually do. But again, everybody's different, dude.
Hugh, you just got here? How dare you? How dare you? You're usually the first one to check in, man.
Well, now we're checking out, so he missed it.
All right. All right, guys. Well, listen, I really, really appreciate you joining us, Jay. We will talk. You guys have yourselves a great weekend. For everyone that
always
joined
a pleasure,
us.
everyone. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy your
He
weekend.
always cuts me off. He always cuts me off and never notices it.
It's payback, you fucking dick.
You hear the language. He takes it from PG to rated
Relentlessly.
R. You see, guys, the more he's like, the more he drinks, the worse he gets, guys.
It's true.
So we're on like Corona 4 or 5, and this is where he gets belligerent and he gets a little nasty there. But guys, have a great night. Have a great weekend. We really appreciate all of you joining us. I am looking forward to your gift, Angie, and your surprise. Okay, you guys have a great weekend, everybody. Peace.
I'll see you next week, man. I'll be there.
All right.
Take it easy, guys.
All right. Bye, guys.